In this episode of Falmouth in Focus, we get a behind-the-scenes tour of holidays at Highfield, go along on a therapy visit with some very special canines, and learn about some of the valuable programs offered by the Falmouth Service Center during the holiday season. All this and much more on this edition of Falmouth in Focus.
Hello and welcome to Falmouth in Focus, FCTV's current affairs program. I'm your host, Michael Kasparian. The Falmouth Coastal Resiliency Action Committee was established to address the risks and hazards to coastal infrastructure and properties that may be affected by erosion, storms, and sea level rise. The results of the recent study have been presented to the Board of Selectmen, and Vice Chairman Doug Brown stopped by the FCTV studios to give us an update.
Hi, I'm Doug Brown. I'm on your Falmouth Select Board. I ran on a platform of coastal resiliency 4 years ago, thinking that people really weren't taking it to heart. We'd had a couple of studies done in 2003 and 2007, and they were sort of just sitting on the shelf, and meanwhile our beach resources and our roadways are more and more in danger every year. So when I first got elected, I asked the other board to consider formation of the Coastal Resiliency Action Committee, and we did right away. And the charge was to look at short-term and long-term solutions for our coast and decide on areas where we might need to retreat and areas where some short-term reinforcement might be in order. So that was the original charge, and so they have initiated the coastal vulnerability assessment. Yeah, what struck me was the ingenuity the Woods Hole group used to think about the Woods Hole aspect of it, where the drawbridge is probably not going to be viable for much longer because the rising tide is going to overwhelm that bridge mechanical area under the bulkhead there. The idea of going out the backside of the pond over towards Taft Playground and Millfield Street, I found that really interesting. So these are the things that come to light when you actually put professional minds on the job and start to think it through. I mean, I never would have come up with that unless somebody really with the knowledge to look at these sea level rise and these areas of concern would have come up with that. According to Woods Hole Group, our roadways are the first thing we want to consider, whether or not we want to preserve them or dead end them and retreat. And that's a town-wide decision that we're going to have to make. People are going to have to be involved, and they're going to have to vote these things, because it's not just a small group that's going to say, oh, forget it, that road's going to be history. I think the town will decide in some areas we might want to spend a few dollars to preserve the length of it. In the downtown area, the Surf Drive area, it's a really big decision because we've got a lot of property, including Main Street, that's at risk because it's very low. That whole area is very low. I think we need to have the conversation now as to whether or not we want to consider raising that road a few feet and creating these earthen berms, or do we want to start to retreat right away? I mean, that's what we are faced with. So the sooner we get the facts and get this out so people can talk about it, the better off we'll be, because it's coming and we have to figure out what we want to do. But I suggest myself, I think we should probably consider doing something along Surf Drive to protect the town and the valuable area and give ourselves time to migrate town a little further back. Maybe the new town hall should be where the admin building is in T-Ticket or some other area. I think eventually our Main Street's going to migrate, and it's going to be inevitable.
FCTV will continue to keep you informed on these important issues affecting our community. Thanks to Jeff Wyman for that report. It's time now for Three Things from Town Hall, FCTV's condensed version of the takeaways from recent municipal meetings. Selections are chosen based on community impact.
In the last Selectmen's meeting, the board was tasked to set the fiscal year 2020 tax rate. There was some discussion about shifting the tax rate between residential and commercial rates, and when asked, the finance director explained to the board that that would be a policy decision and would not affect the total revenue in taxes. The board concluded by saluting Falmouth as having competitive rates and remains a very sought-after community.
Just The vote here today, really what you're looking at is shifting the rate. You're not saving money, or the town isn't going to be able to take any money and then put it aside and fund something else. It's really a shift. So if you have a residential exemption, there's been a lot of discussion about residential exemption, you're exactly right, in Nantucket, and then they actually had a workshop down Cape. But you're shifting that tax, so somebody else is going to pay more.
If you talk with people anywhere on the Cape and even across the canal, Falmouth is an incredibly sought-after community because we've grown carefully, and we've looked at the impact upon our citizens and new folks that are coming. We've tried to be as attractive as we can in terms of our sustainability going forward, and we've supported businesses, particularly small businesses.
During public comment period, the selectmen heard from a resident who was concerned with the scheduled closing of the West Falmouth Fire Station in July 2020. Martha Gilbert of West Falmouth addressed the board, noting an October meeting where she said that the emergency response times would increase in West Falmouth when the station closed down, and suggested that if this is necessary to close the station, to not do so until a new station can be constructed.
I'm here tonight to strongly request the West Falmouth Fire Station stay open with improvements. If this is not possible, then it should stay open and staffed at least until a new fire station is operational. With this closure, I am concerned with the increase of emergency response time from virtually a few minutes to almost 10 minutes at best, as presented by the town at the West Falmouth Library on October 17th.
The Woods Hole Group presented an update to the selectmen about climate change vulnerability and adaptation plan for Falmouth. The presentation focused around overall project objectives, the review of analysis methods and results, and finally examples of recommended actions. The study enforced the idea that many town-owned properties are at risk for flooding, including Town Hall. An example of mitigation for Town Hall would be dry flood proofing the lower floor of the building, constructing berm-like landscaping in the near future, and the consideration of moving Town Hall to a different location further in the future.
What assets do we want to protect? Because I think if you start from that side, and then of course have an assigned cost associated with that, maybe that begins to make people start thinking in serious, oh wow, we want to protect that, it's going to cost us this amount. And that's independent of saying, oh, I'm going to lose my property. But it's looking at it from a community standpoint of what's the cost of protecting what we really value.
To see their meetings in their entirety, check out Government Channel 15's program schedule at fctv.org. We turn now to this month's calendar segment. On December 9th, from 6 to 7:30 p.m. at the Falmouth Public Library, Good Grief Cape Cod and Boston Medical Center Grief Program present a community workshop, Coping with Grief During the Holidays. RSVP to Amy at goodgriefcapecod.org. On December 21st at 6 p.m., the First Congregational Church of Falmouth asks the community to join together for a National Homeless Persons Memorial Day interfaith candlelight service to honor those who have lost this past year while homeless. A reception will follow in Fellowship Hall. On December 25th, the Falmouth Jewish congregation will host its first community Christmas dinner from 2 to 4 p.m. Everyone is invited to this free meal that features a full-course menu, live music, and the good company of neighbors. Go to falmouthjewish.org for more information. This month at the gallery at FCTV, an exhibition entitled Wet Paint 2 will feature artwork by David Rogers from December 8th through January 8th. And don't forget FCTV's monthly open mic night, Poetic License, on Thursday, December 19th at 7:30 p.m. Participants are invited to share their original poetry, story, comedy, spoken word, or acoustic solo performance in a 4-minute time slot. We're going to take a quick break to check out an adoptable cat from People for Cats. And when we return, we'll stop by Holidays at Highfield for a behind-the-scenes tour. Stay with us.
Rudy is a handsome orange tabby domestic short-hair male. This fellow is a lively 14-year-old young senior who is in excellent health. He's a total sweetheart who adores attention and readily rewards you with purrs and headbutts. He also has no trouble telling you if he wants a bit more affection or maybe some food. Rudy came to PFC when his previous owner passed away. This guy is the total package in terms of a loving companion cat. However, he does have a bossy streak and probably would do best with a cat-savvy owner who will not give in to his demands. For more information, contact People for Cats at 508-540-5654 or www.peopleforcats.org.
Welcome back. Nature is the theme for all things holidays at Highfield. In this month's Member Spotlight, Mary Kate Shea takes us behind the scenes of this year's festive decorations at Highfield Hall and Gardens, inspired by Patrick Doherty's current stickwork sculpture, A Passing Fancy.
Holidays at Highfield is about the reimagining of a host and hostess from the period of the late Victorian era, around the date of this house, 1878, and what it might have been like to entertain at that time. I'm sitting in the music nook where we'll have live performers throughout the holidays and hopefully some public sing-alongs. And we have references to music throughout the music nook, from the piano board to violins, music paper, note paper, making up the ornaments. We'll have a printed guide, which will have a little bit of a backstory about every room. So I'd like to show you the dining room next. The dining room is designed to evoke all kinds of very special celebrations, from weddings to New Year's Eve, and of course to Christmas, but really about the most joyous kind of celebrations. You really want to take your time because there are incredible details in every corner. We have a table here designed in a way that resembles a wedding cake. We have champagne bucket. We have books that have been very creatively wrapped in beautiful paper. The idea is to take things that you probably already have in your home and refashion them, but you have to look closely at the details to find out all the little bits and bobs. So the theme of the sticks from the stick work, titled A Passing Fancy by Patrick Doherty, continues in this hallway we call the gallery, with a flight of fancy showing pages from an ornithology folio framed with willow sticks from the summer sculpture. And we have red cardinals in the window perched on beautiful branches, and we'll take you now into our country store. It is full of really great ideas for how to make some holiday decor in your own home using basic things like wrapping a pillow like a present with ribbon, using fine rusticated kitchen tools as decor on the mantle, pulling out the old sporting goods that you might find either in your cellar, attic, or in the Goodwill store, and putting those around your fireplace. One of the more spectacular pieces in this room is the chandelier, where we have simple bottles holding a sprig of Christmas greenery. It's very simple. You could do it too. We have it fashioned like a general store, and it's good to remember that the Beebes from Falmouth actually made their fortune as dry goods purveyors. After you walk up the grand staircase, you will arrive at a winter wonderland banquet for our little forest creatures, set up with stumps for stools and with this grand archway fashioned out of the willow branches again. And all of the pieces on the banquet table have been foraged locally, from moss to duckweed to lichen. So as you can see, it's an incredibly hospitable spot for our little forest creatures. So this is a very special spot. It's our landing, and it is featuring our revelers, who are invited guests by the host and hostess, and they are all dressed up for this very special celebration. When the revelers head down to the party, they'll stop here and pick up a lantern and follow the host and hostess down to the soiree. And that's where I'm heading, and I hope I'll see you there too.
Holidays at Highfield will be open to the public until December 8th, and then return for extended dates from December 12th through December 20th. Check out highfieldhallandgardens.org for more details. Thanks again to Mary Kate Shea for that piece. The Companion Animal Program, or CAP, is an all-volunteer organization of pet owners who visit with their pets to nursing and care facilities, and whose programs serve children and adults with disabilities, libraries, and schools on Cape Cod. All animals representing CAP must first attend therapy team training and pass the CAP therapy team evaluation before they can begin visitation at a therapy team site.
CAP it stands for Companion Animal Program, and we're a dog therapy organization that's all volunteer. It's been on the Cape for many years, and we work solely on the Cape. We work in teams in facilities. We have 85 working teams right now. We work with the dogs through these 12 weeks to work out the kinks. People in the facilities that we visit can act erratically. So that's a lot of what we're trying to practice with them, is to keep the dogs calm and to keep them in control by their sides. They have to pass the evaluation that we do at the end of the class. And then they have to pass their orientation, which means they go in with a CAP evaluator for their first visit. And they have to actually pass that as well, which is all the therapy behaviors. The most important thing in therapy work is, does the dog want to participate? And that's what you find out in this 12 weeks.
I'm Maureen Remillard. This is my dog Lila. When I started, she was only about a year old, so she was still pretty young. And she's a kind of dog that needs stimulation because she's high energy. So they would bring in things like wheelchairs, and she had to get used to a variety of different things. So not much phases her now. And it is a good bonding experience because, you know, you're working with them pretty intensely.
We just love having the companion animals come. They visit once a month, and a lot of the residents that don't come out of their rooms very often or don't come to a lot of activities, they come to this. It's something that they really look forward to.
And this is my miniature schnauzer, Winston. We went through the CAP training, and I had him certified, and this is our third year with CAP, and this month he'll have 125 visits. He is a lap dog. He likes people. He likes to sit on their lap. He likes to be held. He likes the love. He likes the attention. And the residents are happy to see him.
Well, I've always had been a dog owner, and I miss them. I can't have I could have a little dog here, but I'd always had big dogs, and I miss having them. And I'm thrilled that these dogs can come and visit. Warms the cockles of my heart.
It means everything to me. The dogs are in love with them. The minute you meet them, they know that they love you.
And I've had staff come up to me after a meeting telling me how much of a difference they've seen in the client in terms of somebody that never smiles or never looks up, doesn't communicate, will start talking to the dog, or they'll start remembering having a dog, and they may think that the dog that's visiting might have been a dog that they had as a child.
Having the dogs here really enriches the lives of our residents. I see when they come in, it really changes their day, whether they're having a bad day or if they're having a good day, they're even happier. It's really amazing to see what these dogs do for our residents.
We also do 3 schools right now where we visit once a month, and the children in the classrooms come to read to the dogs, and that's the biggest part of our children's program, is what we call Tales to Tales. They like the connection with the children, and that connection is pretty magical between children and dogs in our program.
Any dog can be a therapy dog if they have the right disposition and the right training. So I hope everybody will think about it, because we're always looking for new teams.
For more information about CAP, visit their website at companionanimalprogram.com. Thanks to Andrew Richards for that story. The Falmouth Service Center's mission is to ease stress, reduce hunger, and improve the quality of life for our neighbors in need. These objectives are even more important during the holiday season. FCTV stopped by the Service Center to get an update on their recent efforts.
Today's our annual turkey drop-off day here at the Falmouth Service Center. It's an annual event. It takes place on the Sunday before Thanksgiving, and this gives the community a chance to help put together our Thanksgiving baskets, and it also gives the community a chance to drop things off for the baskets. So we're currently accepting fresh and frozen turkeys and hams, fresh veggies, pies, breads, all the fixings, stuffing. People come from all over. Some people do this volunteer here to start their holidays, and we probably have about 200 people who will come in and volunteer today between 12 and 4.
I think we probably have more people volunteering on Thanksgiving than we do at any time of the year. We have a couple of other large programs. We have the Christmas toy program that calls for a lot of volunteers to help set it up and to get it going and to help the parents shop. And we have the Postal Service food drive. The National Association of Letter Carriers once a year gathers food.
We have a big group that was putting green beans, fresh green beans in bags. We had another group that was putting apples in bags. Then we have our root vegetable room, which is potatoes, squash, onions, and sweet potatoes. They're putting that in bags. Then we have a whole group who's assembling the fixings, which is the stuffing, the cranberry sauce. And then we have a tremendous amount of volunteers who are getting very soggy today as they unload all the cars that come up the driveway.
Our mission is to try and help the folks who are struggling. So every couple of weeks they can come in and get food. There's other services we provide. We've got like a dozen programs, and it's sort of a backstop for folks who need help.
This year, in particular, we are missing our executive director, Brenda Swain, who started here in this building in 2001 and has just been a phenomenal executive director. She's currently out on a medical leave, and we are very much missing her this holiday season. But this outpouring of support from our community for our Thanksgiving program, for our holiday toy program, volunteers coming forward asking how they can help has just been a tremendous testament to what Brenda means to this organization.
Not a day goes by when someone's not saying, "How's Brenda doing?" Or "We're going to see Brenda. Is she feeling okay? Anything we can do?" She's, sort of the emotional, spiritual, and executive leader of the center, and she's been involved for so long, and she's sets the spirit. It's Brenda who's responsible, I think, for the signs we have up in here in the back that the clients don't see, I think, that say err on the side of generosity. And that's Brenda's spirit. This place wouldn't be what it is had not Brenda done everything she's done, and she's just, the spirit guides us.
We would like to thank every single person who has come through these doors today to volunteer, and the tremendous outpouring. Yesterday, a hockey team was gathering donations at Stop and Shop. Today, the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts are gathering donations at Stop and Shop. There's a number of organizations. Cape Cod Church has also been gathering, and they're all dropping that out back. So we are just tremendously grateful to the amount of volunteers and donors.
For more information about the Falmouth Service Center, go to their website at falmouthservicecenter.org. Thanks to Tony Sedera for that report. We're going to take a quick break, but when we return, we'll hear from the featured speaker at a recent anti-vaping forum at Falmouth High School. Stay with us. Welcome back. 1 in 4 Massachusetts high school students report that they vape, and students as young as 10 are beginning to use electronic cigarettes, according to the Barnstable County Department of Human Services. Falmouth Public Schools is working with families to address student vaping in a series of community forums led by Dr. Jeffrey Spillane, a thoracic surgeon at Cape Cod Healthcare, who talks about the hazards of vaping.
I think the largest issue is that our generation, as parents, as adults, we may or may not understand how large an issue this is. This is an epidemic. This is a problem for teens. It's a new problem, and so when there's a new epidemic, you don't understand it at first. You don't understand how to treat it at first. You don't understand how large the problem is, where it will go. But it's very important to say that we care about these kids. We can't let this happen. I mean, it's too many kids. 1.3 million new teen vapors between 2017 and 2018. That is too many to allow. Particular health issues will come out of inflammation in the lungs. It's not just about nicotine and addiction and eventual cancer, which is what we saw with traditional cigarettes, but more the breakdown products that come from the liquid in the e-cigarette that then has to pass a super hot coil of heavy metals, and then the breakdown products of those liquids seem to produce a great deal of free radical formation. Free radicals are a marker of inflammation. It's a chemical burn of the lungs, essentially. And we see that play out in respiratory failure, requirement for oxygen. A large number of the patients seem to have what we're calling it EVALI, e-cigarette and vapor-associated lung injury. These people get admitted to the hospital, put on oxygen, high-dose steroids, supportive care, oxygen, and then if they are not continuing to injure their lungs, they can recover. There was, unfortunately, 2 weeks ago, a kid, a 16 or 17-year-old kid who required a double lung transplant because his lungs were gone. The long-term effects are going to be chronic scarring in the lungs, chronic inflammation of the lungs, much as we see with established smokers. It is different, but it all centers around inflammation in the lungs. Well, I think as a parent myself, they certainly need to know that they're not alone, that this is a challenge for parents of this generation of kids, that every parent is going to have to look at this in some way, even if it's the friends of their kids. And my approach has been to try and understand who they are as a generation. This is a generation that really cares about their friends. They really are very socially interactive. I think the best approach is to approach it from a standpoint of not confrontational with, hey, what is this thing? You're not vaping, are you? But rather, I know some of the kids in your school or some of the kids that you meet are going to vape or have vaped, and I just want you to understand or be able to talk to me about it. And then if you get the chance to tell that kid inflammation of the lungs is real, that this is not inert, that it has a danger. I think we're seeing more of that in the literature. But actually just sit and talk with your kids about the possible effects on kids their age that they will know, who will vape, friends of theirs who will vape. I think it's probably best not to just confront them and say, hey, I don't want you doing this because it's bad.
Thanks to Ryan Weber for that important story. FCTV wants you to know that television can be as easy as hitting record on your smartphone. We'd like to invite all Falmouth residents and visitors to share their slice of life with us. Email us your photos and videos or upload them to Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram using the hashtag MyFalmouth or Falmouth in Focus to be featured on the show. Thank you to our most recent contributors. We leave you now with the sights and sounds of the Boccacelli and Chappaqua cellists' performance at the Woods Hole Community Hall. Thank you for watching Falmouth in Focus. We'll see you next time.